Today I want to start out with a simple question. It's very simple. Who did you need when you were younger? Who did you need when you were younger? Think back to those days. Maybe it was in elementary, maybe it was in middle school, maybe it was even in high school. Who did you need in your life when you were younger? If you were to look back at maybe some of the most trying moments of your life, or even in some of the most pivotal mountaintop moments, who did you need to be there in your life? Did you need a bigger cheerleader in your life? Did you need somebody to stand next to you and to cheer you on as you went and accomplished that goal? Did you need a bigger cheerleader and maybe they were missing? Or what about, did you need someone who you knew was safe to confide in and process life with? Did you need someone that you could go to and say, hey, I'm struggling. I'm dealing with this thing. Can you help me solve it? Or what about a coach or a leader who's gone before you and can help you walk the journey you're in? Maybe that was in a job. Did you need somebody to kind of show you the ropes? Maybe that was in a career. Maybe that was in a stage in your life. Who did you need when you were younger? It's a simple question, really. But I think there's some deep, impacting, and incredible realness to that question when we ask ourselves that. And today is kind of part one. Next week, we're going to kind of conclude this part two of this type of message where we talk about being for people. But today is one of those moments of asking that question, who did you need when you were younger? See, I can remember looking back, growing up, I played a lot of sports, and I remember some coaches of mine who walked beside me in moments that I needed it the most. Coaches who would walk beside me and they would help me figure out my body as it was growing, that lovely thing called puberty. I thought I was going to hit this growth spurt and become 6'5". I only made it to 6'3". But they helped me navigate that. They helped me navigate as I was training in how to build more muscle, how to eat better. They helped me navigate different skills and different moments of my life. There was moments where they'd put their arm around me and they would bring me along with them. There's moments they'd stay after practice and help me tune in what I was working in. There was moments where they would also challenge me and push me harder and further than I've ever gone before. There's opportunities that they had to speak truth into me. There's opportunities that they had to speak love and even critique me in my life. But all of this, all of these moments has helped me be shaped into who I am today. Not only as coaches, but I look back at mentors. People who've walked before me in the faith, people who've walked before me in church life, mentors of mine who have helped grow me into the man that I am today, who've challenged me and pushed me further. When I use all of this, when I see all of this, we can start to see how beneficial it is and how needed it is in life to have people around us to walk with us. It's probably not a surprise to any of us, right? Mentorship and pouring into each other is not a surprise. It's not a new concept, so to say. But I want to be very clear about this. Today I want to talk about cross-generational relationships. Okay? And I want to be very specific. I don't want to just say, oh, I know somebody who's older than me, or I know somebody who's younger than me. No. I want to talk about relationships that are investing in each other. Relationships with a generation above me who are pouring into me as I'm pouring into them. They know the intricate parts of my heart and my life and my story. I want to talk about relationships that go beyond just knowing and dive into investing and building and growing with each other. Because I believe that's the heart of Jesus. At the core, I believe that it is the heart of Jesus. I believe Jesus' heart, God's heart, is for older generations and younger generations to not just coexist, but to have lasting relationships that know each other intimately. And I think this heart of God the Father even goes all the way back into the Old Testament. And today that's where we're going to dive into. We're going to dive into the Old Testament. And this story that we're going to be diving into is in 1 Kings. And it's a story of a prophet and his successor. And before we dive into the text, it's helpful to know, as we are going to talk about Elijah and Elisha, some of the background. And so as we're doing this, chapter 19 opens up where we see Elijah's ministry as a prophet so far has gone pretty well. He's kind of on one of these mountaintop moments, so to say. It was this moment where he saw God defeat the god of Baal, and ultimately Elijah slaughters all the priests of Baal. Pretty sweet, epic moment, if you ask me. Like, Elijah just slaughters hundreds of people, and he's like, yeah, I love it. It's good stuff. Read it. And then it takes a turn, though. After the moment where Elijah slaughters the priests of Baal, it takes a turn. And there's this lovely lady named Jezebel. Woo! And she literally puts a hit out for Elijah's head. She wants him dead. And so Elijah runs for his life. Mountaintop moment. And we saw now Elijah starting to trace really far down the mountaintop. He's running for his life. He's scared for his life. And at one point, he literally is begging God to end his life. Depression, anxiety, suicidal maybe even. Elijah is sitting here begging God to end it all. And so in this moment, God looks at Elijah and he says, Elijah, have a snack and take a nap, and let's talk again in a minute. And so Elijah has a snack, takes a nap, and he wakes up, and God and him have this conversation now on Mount Sinai. And we see this moment after this time. He's still kind of in this little valley area of his life, so to say. And God has this moment where he sets the ministry of Elijah back on track. And he tells Elijah, go and anoint these 3 people. And today we're going to talk about one of them. And he takes off, Elijah takes off from this conversation with God to go anoint his young successor, Elisha. And this is what it says in 1 Kings 19, verses 19 through 20. So Elijah went and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, plowing a field. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elisha was plowing with the 12th team. Elijah went over to him, threw his cloak across his shoulders, and then walked away. Elisha left the oxen standing there, ran after Elijah, and said to him, first let me go and kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I will go with you. But Elijah replied, go on back, but think about what I have done to you. This is a moment where we see Elijah walk up to Elisha, and it says he throws his cloak on him, or his mantle on him. This is very important here. It's very important here because Elijah does something that seems really weird to us, if we're just being honest, right? He walks up to this young man plowing the field, takes off this cloak, takes off this scarf maybe, and throws it on this young man, and then he does what? Walks away. Now, I don't know about you. If I was out working in my yard and some dude walked up to me and threw his coat on me and then just walked away and never said a word, I would personally be like, what are you doing? I don't want your coat. But Elisha knows exactly what this means. He knows exactly what this means. See, this cloak was called a mantle. And the mantle was this official garment of a prophet. Elijah was a prophet of God. And so Elijah, when he takes off this mantle, this cloak, puts it on Elisha, he's literally telling him, come, learn from me, go with me, and become a prophet too. It's this burden of the prophet that Elijah now is also putting on this young Elisha. It represented the call of God and a call to his people. This is literally a moment where Elijah is looking at Elisha and says, come, learn, grow, and ultimately take the baton that I'm carrying. Take the baton that I'm carrying. He's inviting this young man into his life to do life with him. He's inviting them in. Who gave you a baton? What baton are you carrying? See, that's the question. And I love this. I love this reality because I truly believe that God here has this dynamic plan that Elijah just gets to be a part of. And what's interesting is that he commands Elijah to go and do this. He commands his prophet to go and do this, to pour his life into them. And God is still in the business of doing this. Now, some of us may sit here and be like, I mean, that sounds all cool, Kyle, but I'm not going to walk around putting my coat on some random dude. I get you. I get you on that. But I do believe that God may be calling you, maybe right now, right here today, to find that one person at work who could just use someone to show them love and to help them learn the ropes. And maybe it's that young coworker to become more knowledgeable. Maybe it's that young person in your life to learn how to work better. Maybe it's that neighbor, that young neighbor who is learning how to adult and live on their own and not under mommy and daddy. You know what I'm saying? Millennials, maybe. Some of us understanding this, right? Adulting. Maybe they just need someone to say, hey, you want to get rid of those dandelions in your front yard? Here's a great way to do it. Or maybe it's just that young child. Maybe it's that young child of a friend of yours who they could just use another adult looking at them and telling them that they are worthy, that they are needed, that they are valuable, that you see them and you hear them and you love them in this world. Who did you need when you were younger? If you were to look back at this moment it takes place, I find it very interesting. It comes right in this moment where Elijah and God is having this conversation. Remember, right before this, Elijah was having this really rough time. And there's a moment where he stands there and he's talking to God, and he's recognizing who God is. And God, here's what's interesting to me, God brings up the idea of Elisha. Elijah does not. Elijah's not standing there saying, God, who's going to take over for me? God, who do I need to pour into? God, who is it? God brings it up to Elijah and says, Elijah, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go find this young person, and I want you to pour into them. Elijah doesn't bring up a successor, God does. This is the Lord's will. This is not Elijah's greedy self moment where he's looking to kind of get assistance. This is the moment where God initiates the idea and announces the candidate to Elijah. So, simple question maybe is who is God maybe initiating a relationship with on your behalf to grow, to lead, and discover him together? We're going to take a few seconds right now and ask that question in your own spirit and let God speak to you of that. Who is he initiating a relationship with on your behalf? Who is he going before you already? Who is he moving in their hearts already? Who is that young person that God is telling you you need to seek out, reach out this week, and pour into to grow, learn, and get to know God better together? Because I believe he has somebody for each and every one of us. I believe he has somebody for each and every one of us. So who is it? You see, because in that moment when Elijah comes and he puts his cloak, his mantle on Elisha, we have to understand that Elisha was not sitting here looking for this next great opportunity. If you remember, if you read back in the text, you would understand that Elisha comes from a pretty well-off family. It says he's plowing the fields, and he was himself working with the 12th team of oxen. His family is pretty well off. He's got a solid family, a solid job that he's doing. He's not looking for this next great opportunity to get out of the family business, so to say, or whatever. He's pretty comfortable. But look at his response. Look at Elisha's response in verse 20. Elisha left the oxen standing there, and he ran after Elijah the prophet. And he said, "First, let me go kiss my father and my mother goodbye, and then I will go with you." And Elijah replied, "Go back, but think about what I have done to you." This is a moment where Elijah reminds Elisha that this is not me calling you, this is God speaking into you right now. This is God calling you to do his work. Elijah doesn't explain anything. He just puts the cloak on, he walks away, and he says, "Go back, go on and go back. But remember what I have done to you." It's not Elijah who's calling Elisha. This was a call from God. And here's what's interesting. I love this. It's on Elisha to decide what to do. Plain simple. It's on this young successor to decide what to do. I can go back. I can grab the plow again and I can start working. It's pretty comfortable here. It's actually really comfortable here. It's safe. I know what's happening. I know what to expect. There's not really any hiccups, if you know what I'm saying. It's a pretty smooth ride. I kiss mom and dad goodbye, and I'm out. I follow this man who put his coat on me, his cloak on me, this mantle, the burden of a prophet. Do I really want the burden of the prophet? I don't know what God has in store, but maybe, just maybe, just maybe, this life would offer me more than I can ever understand than that one. And we see the tension, I think, in the split-second decision where Elisha has to decide, what do I do? Elijah's not offering him this great 401k. Like, he's not offering this massive retirement plan. It's not like he's coercing him or manipulating him. He's not offering him. He's not bribing him. He gave him the cloak. He gave him the burden. He walked away. It's up to the young successor to determine and decide, do I follow and let this man pour into me? Let this man help me grow into a deeper relationship with God, or do I just stay and play it safe? See, Elisha had safety, but he didn't have a purpose. He was seeking a purpose in life. He could just slave and keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and he'd be safe his whole life. He'd be comfortable his whole life. But he has to choose in this moment. He has to decide for himself what he's going to do with his past. Am I going to stay in it? Am I just going to walk in it? Am I going to embrace it? Or am I going to change? Am I going to follow what the burden of God is upon me, this cloak, this mantle? But we also know that in this moment, Elijah is also faced with some choices. Follow God's plan, go anoint Elisha, and journey with him and pour into him and mentor him and grow with him. Or just keep doing things the way he's been doing. See, Elijah knew his purpose was to be the Lord's prophet, but he didn't have a successor. He couldn't do this forever. There comes a moment where he gets so tired. You get tired. I don't know if we know this or not. We grow old. Shocking, right? There's moments, I started playing softball recently again. It's that nice time of year. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I am not 18 anymore. Why am I diving in the outfield? Why am I running so fast? I don't need to do that. I got young guys behind me. They're just going to hit it over the fence. I don't need to run. I should just walk. We grow old. We can't do this forever. You know what I'm saying? But there's things that we pass on. There's a moment where we have to pass the baton, and we have to help shepherd and grow and mentor these younger generations. For me, my grandfather has been an incredible example of this. My grandfather has not just passed down life lessons, but he's passed down useful tools and things, physical things, to help me grow that. One day, he passed down this old Bible. Like, my grandpa's old, by the way. And I remember reading through his Bible. And it's like before the King James Version, you know what I'm saying? Like the thou, these, shalls, whatever. I don't read that stuff that much, right? But reading it and starting to see some of the things of my grandfather in this Bible, in this book. I was reflecting on it one day as I was in my basement. I have some of the stuff that he's given to me. Old tools that I still use to this day when I'm working on my own car. I remember the first time my grandpa taught me how to change the brakes on a car. He was patient with me because I was stubborn. And I thought I knew exactly what to do, and I had no idea what I was doing. I remember the first time he let me crawl underneath the car with him. I remember those moments where we were changing the tire or changing the oil or doing the brake pads or working on the engine. I remember the times underneath the car as my grandpa and I are monkeying around, getting greased up and everything. And it's this beautiful moment where he's not only just talking about a car anymore, but he's talking about life. You know, one day, Kyle, when you become a young man, when you grow older, you're going to have choices to make. You're going to be faced with these choices. Choose right. Choose the one where you walk in God's path. And when you fall, when you fail, because you will, know that you have support and you have a God, a loving God, who's still there with you. I remember having conversations with my grandpa about marriage. My grandma, when even she was alive, I remember these conversations when I was dating Courtney. We weren't even engaged yet, and talking about our relationship and hearing about their relationship. I remember these moments. My grandfather not only physically passed down things, physical things, but he passed down much more valuable things in the life lessons, the wisdom, the words, the expertise that he had in growing and living life. He took moments, he took time to pass a mantle. A mantle. He took time to pass lessons about being a father. He took time to pass lessons about being a man. Took time to pass lessons about being a husband. He took time to pass down lessons about being a friend. But some of the most pivotal moments for me that I remember with my grandfather, to this day, is actually listening to my grandfather pray. My grandfather, believe it or not, is much more even keel energy level than I am. Shocking. But when this man prays, it's different than the words I use. It's different than the tone I use. It's different than the energy I use. Because he has this deep, loving reverence for the Lord. He has a deep loving reverence for what God is doing and has done in life. And I'll never forget those moments sitting at the dinner table and looking at my grandfather and him praying. And hearing the words and the reverence and the deep love come from his mouth. It changed me, honestly. And now to see my grandfather interact with my boys, it's such a blessing to see that my boys not just know this older man, but have a relationship with him. Whose shoulders do you know that need your mantle right now? Whose shoulders need your mantle? Who needs you to come alongside them? Walk with them, put your arm around them, pour into them, grow in life with them. And when and how do you need to invest in them? I'm telling you, there's people in your life. There's people in your life that are just seeking and waiting for someone who has gone before them to say, hey, can I grab coffee with you and can we just talk about life? Hey, I noticed you had a rough day last Wednesday or whatever. I noticed yesterday was really rough for you. I saw you crying at your office desk. I'd love to take you out for lunch, and if you need to talk anytime, I'd love to just be there for you. Who needs your mantle? Who needs you to come alongside them and walk closer and closer and closer into the presence of Jesus together? See, we always talk about that we want to see a better tomorrow. We want to see a better tomorrow. We want to see change come. But that means that today, right now, this week, today, tonight, whatever, we have to invest in that next generation. We want to see a better tomorrow. That it starts today. It starts today. I'm reminded a few years ago of a quote that I heard. Sitting in a room full of parents. And Courtney and I were sitting in this room, and it was this panel discussion. And the quote, as we were learning, the quote just simply said this is, you can teach what you know, but you reproduce what you are. You can teach what you know, but you reproduce what you are. I can teach what I have knowledge on. I can tell you what you need to know. I can teach you what you should know. I should teach you how you should go. But ultimately, I'm reproducing what I am. I can tell you one thing, but if my life doesn't reflect what I tell you, the thing that's going to stick is how I live. You following so far? So here's the moment for us, and I think this is the moment where the rubber is hitting the road, is that if we are going to invest in this next generation, it's not going to be because we taught them well. You feel me? It's not going to be because I taught them the rules, the guidelines, the commands to do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's going to be because I lived it with them. You get me? Come on now. So this is the moment where we have to reproduce what we are. And this might mean it's the moment for us to look in the mirror and say, what am I reproducing? Because if I'm teaching the younger generation that it's okay to fly off the handle, if I'm teaching the younger generation that it's okay to be so upset over the small, if I'm teaching the younger generation that when something goes wrong, the first thing you do is you go to a bottle or drugs or something else, I'm reproducing that as well. Does that make sense? But if I'm teaching them that the first thing that I do when things go wrong is I fall to my knees and I go to the Lord in prayer, I'm going to reproduce that. If I'm showing it, if I'm walking with them and I'm modeling it, they're going to reproduce that as well. You can teach what you know, but you reproduce what you are. And so as we close today, as Josh comes up and we close today, I just have a simple reminder for us. Is we have to move from just teaching to living it. We have to make this shift. And we have to move from it. Because in turn, when we reproduce what we are, the younger generations will reproduce what they are as well. How do I know that's true? Because this is exactly what Christ did, by the way. It's exactly what Christ did. Christ came and when he started his ministry, what was his first big move in ministry? His first big move in ministry on earth was to literally go find people, young people, by the way, go find younger people than him, who he would empower, who he would equip and encourage and guide in how to live life. Let's not forget the 12 young men that he took. These were young men, young people that the world saw as not good enough, not valuable enough. And he said, come and follow me. He takes his mantle and he puts it upon them. And he says, learn from me. Grow with me. Let me show you what it's all about. And then at the end of the 3 years of ministry, what's his last big move before he ascends to the Father? He says, go and do it. Do exactly what I have done. His first big move is find young people to invest in. His last big move is to delegate some of his most important work to those who walked with him. It's very simple. Who needs your mantle? If you were to think back to that moment in your life where you needed just one person to look at you square in the eyes and tell you that you have what it takes, that you are good enough, that you are deeply loved, that you are valuable, that you are worthy. If you were to think back to that moment and place yourself in that moment, who did you need? Don't let another kid, another student, another young person have the moment where they look out and say, I didn't have it. I didn't have someone to pour into me. Nobody cared enough. There's been a song that this week has just been on repeat for me. It's a song called Talking to Jesus. And it has radically destroyed me because it just is talking about modeling what we do in our faith. I don't want to see another day go by that children, students, teenagers don't have somebody who pours into them. Our world is pretty lost. But there is hope for the world. His name is Jesus. And if he did it, if he poured into young people, so will I. So will I. And I truly hope that you will join me in that. I truly hope that you will be for people like Jesus was. At the core. At the core. Father, I pray right now. I pray in your name, in the name of the Father right now, Lord, that you would give us your heart. Your heart of the Father for those young people who need to hear that they are deeply loved, that they are valued, that they are worthy, that they are cherished. I pray that you would give us lenses in our eyes and our hearts to see those people and to love them like you love them. And God, in the name of Jesus, your Son, I pray that you would give us the power to walk like Jesus did, to bring young people alongside of us, to learn, to grow, to pour into, to empower and equip, to show them your glory, Lord. In the name of the Holy Spirit, Lord, I ask that you would help us from just teaching about it, Lord, to reproducing it, to living it out. Move us personally, Lord, in a position and a place where we can pour into, where we can model, where we can live this truth out, the truth that we are called to be for people, for the younger generation, Lord. That's how we grow. That's how your kingdom grows, Lord. By pouring into the children and the youth. And as they lead, as they grow in your presence, Lord, that they would reproduce it, that it would spread like wildfire, Lord, in their schools, in their homes, in their neighborhoods, at the parks. Wherever they are, Lord, would your Spirit just fill them and overflow with them, Lord. So God, I pray, Lord, that you would drench your people with your presence, Lord, like never before, so that we would walk in the holy confidence, knowing that you have gone before us, Lord, that you have done it, and so will we. Move us, Father. Move us to a place, Lord, where you give us the opportunity to pour into a younger person today. Destroy our hearts, Lord, for what they are walking in, Lord. And let us walk beside them with our arms around them, knowing that you are big enough and great enough to overcome anything and everything. We pray this in your name, Lord.